Okay, let's talk about efficiency and miles per gallon and that kind of stuff a little bit. You probably all remember that classic video from Top Gear, Jeremy Clarkson, where he took a Prius, or the UK guys call it a Prius or something like that, right? The Prius, and they raced it around their racetrack as fast as they could, and they chased it with a V8 BMW M3.
The Prius would be driven as fast as possible. All I had to do in the BMW was keep up.
Which car got better miles per gallon? It was actually the BMW, right? Which was amusing, and all it really proved was that if you take an engineered mechanical system and push it to do something it's not designed to do, it's not going to do it very well, right? Well, so this XC60, it's a plug-in hybrid. It gets amazing miles per gallon. We've done a few little road trips at this point. We have, we did a little run down to Monterey. We did a run to Santa Barbara. We just last weekend finished a drive up to Yosemite. And on kind of long highway trips, at least so far, the best I've gotten was about 28 miles per gallon. Actually, that was a trip to Sacramento back again for work. We went to Santa Barbara, it was more like 25, although we did some kind of, I don't know, dicking around in Santa Barbara, going real slow and with no battery charge, and it was really kind of terrible. And so I've been kind of thinking, right, so I want this truck to be kind of this off-road, overlanding / everything mobile that can do everything and do it all well, whether it be 0 to 60 or whether it be to use no gas, just tootling around for errands in my neighborhood, or on these long road trips, or most importantly, when off-road and in all-wheel drive mode, what is the gas mileage really gonna be when I push it out of its comfort zone? So I actually did a test, kind of like seeing what the worst case scenario would be. And so what I did is I drained the battery completely. Say we're camping overnight in the middle of the desert and we sleep inside the truck and we actually leave it on and keep the cabin going using the battery to go ahead and keep us warm. So we burn the battery to the ground, and then the next day we're in all-wheel drive mode, which means the engine is producing electricity to send the electric motor on the rear axle to go ahead and put to the ground to balance torque for the front and rear axles. That's obviously inefficient. And then also, I actually set it to charge battery so that we could recharge the battery for that coming night, right? So absolute worst case scenario. And then drove relatively low speeds, 30 to 40 miles an hour, just, up kind of the main drag here for 10 miles. I only got about 10 miles per gallon. So that's terrible. But so let's think back and kind of frame that a little bit. So our previous kind of off-road fun vehicle was a V8 Nissan Pathfinder, an R51 Pathfinder. That thing was great, but it would get 15 miles per gallon with a tailwind on the freeway on a good day. And so the fact that we could get 10 in the worst case scenario is pretty damn good. And then Yosemite last weekend, so we were definitely using all-wheel drive all day on snow, going 20 to 30, 35 miles per hour. And I got about 20 miles per gallon. So that's great. If I can cruise desert trails and get 20 miles per gallon, that's fantastic. And one thing I haven't done yet is really kind of on a long highway cruise. I mean, normally I'm setting the cruise control at like 10 to 15. Check out that car. Oh my God, look at that. 10 to 15 miles an hour. That was a cool old classic car over there. 10 to 15, I'm cruising 10 to 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, say 75, 80 miles an hour. Obviously not the most efficient. I haven't really kind of taken my time and just cruise at 5 over and see what kind of efficiency we can really get on a really long haul. If we're doing like cross-country road trips and that kind of stuff, how much can we stretch out those refueling stops? How far can we push them? I'm going to do that this morning. We are on our way to Death Valley National Park. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset the trip information. There we go. Back to 0. And we are currently in pure mode, so only using electric power. And actually I'm going to go ahead and flip it into hybrid mode now, so that as we get on the freeway, we'll have some electric assist. The car is kind of cold and whatever. And then I'm actually going to put the battery into hold mode to save the battery for further stuff down the road. I'll just kind of see, more conservative driving, maybe 5 over, like 70 miles an hour, and do the first stint that way, and we'll see what kind of miles per gallon I can actually get. And to handicap things a little bit as an excuse, we do have, some kind of off-road worthy tires on here, which are certainly not as efficient as the OEM equipment. But let's go ahead and get on the freeway and talk to you in a couple hours. So we just got to I-5. We drove all the way from San Jose, capital Silicon Valley, down through Gilroy near Hollister, up over the Pacheco Pass, and now just outside of Los Banos. And honestly, it could have been better. We got to about 28 miles per gallon, but then when we climbed that last hill over the Pacheco Pass, we dropped down to 26.1. A bit more happy about that, especially at the sedate pace we were rolling along at, but so it goes. We're now on I-5 where the speed limit is 70, so we're going to go ahead and crank it up now and screw the miles per gallon, and we're going to get our asses to Death Valley. Later.
All right, let's wrap up this episode with some hard post-trip data. And to be clear here, the reason why I'm really interested in the miles per gallon and general efficiency of our XC60 is because it is, of course, a T8. It's a plug-in hybrid. Efficiency is one of the big deals. One of it is performance, but another one is definitely the efficiency. And efficiency is important to me, both for, yes, saving the planet, saving me money on my pocketbook, and also range, both road trip range and trail range. If we're doing a 3-day trip on the Mojave Road, which we're already talking about doing, or on the TNT Railroad, going through Shoshone area and the Dumont Dunes and that kind of stuff, when you're 3 days on the road, when you're crawling along like how far you can go is really something that's important to know. So, for that opening clip of this video, we started out in San Jose. We were driving relatively conservatively, about 70 miles an hour, 5 over the speed limit, down to Gilroy, and then about 60. Speed limit is 55 through here. It's also just narrow little 2-lane highway, so just kind of radar cruise controlling behind trucks and whatever. And basically, as we finished off all the flats, we were up at a very nice about 28 miles per gallon. But then climbing up over the Pacheco Pass to get over the Central Valley, our overall average dropped down to about 26. I was disappointed by that, honestly. I was kind of hoping that essentially as we spend gasoline to gain elevation and increase our potential energy of our vehicle, that coming back down the hill, we would net back a bunch of that as battery power and then burn that battery power on the flats to essentially get extra excellent miles per gallon, and it would all kind of balance out in the end, right? Didn't honestly do that. We got over here to I-5 getting about 26, and at that point we put the hammer down. I-5 is long and straight and boring, and so we were cruising at like 85, 90, etc., zipping along on down through here. These are the statistics from the Volvo app, which talks directly to my car. And this is the full range, 501 miles all the way from San Jose to Shoshone, which is over on the far side of Death Valley. And as we just saw, the route actually takes you all the way down through Bakersfield, Baker, Barstow, etc., and finally up to Shoshone. So 500 miles, and our overall consumption was about 25 miles per gallon, which is a little disappointing. I would like to get a little bit better, but again, we were driving fast. And our old trail rig, our old Pathfinder R51, on a good day, it would get 15 on these kind of long road trips. And so, and actually, if we put our Yakima like cargo rack up on the roof, it would be more like 13, if not 12 point something. It was truly terrible. So 25, honestly, that's great. And that was just over 1 tank of gas. In fact, I think if I had slowed down and, cruised behind the fastest big rig or that kind of thing, I could have easily made it in 1 tank. And maybe someday I'll do that for giggles. But, when you have 8 hours of driving to do, it's kind of hard not to put the hammer down. So day 2 of our trip, we did a whole bunch of off-roading, exploring around the Gold Valley area, driving all the way out to Willow Spring, as well as various offshoot roads to various gold mines and stuff through here. So from Shoshone here, it's paved up until we break off of 178. Then we're totally on a desert road through here, and then really crawling along through the wilds up out to Willow Spring, and then back out again. For Willow Spring, we drove all the way up the road here, which is the Furnace Creek Wash Road. It finally becomes paved right here, which is the junction for Dante's Peak Road, which unfortunately Dante's Peak was closed due to snow, so we couldn't go up there. So we just continued right on out and up to Furnace Creek. The total was something like 80 odd miles or so, but the significant majority of all this was definitely with all-wheel drive enabled and going, let's say, on the slow stuff, 5-10 miles an hour, but on the faster stuff, maybe 30-40 miles an hour, 35 on well-groomed dirt roads along here on the Furnace Creek Wash. So overall, let's take a look at the numbers here. So almost exactly 90 miles traveled, about 17 miles per gallon. Considering the terrain we were on, the speeds we were going, that we were in either off-road or all-wheel drive mode continuously, which essentially requires that the engine produce electricity up front and send electricity through the battery pack to the rear axle to essentially balance delivered torque between the front and rear axles. So you're continuously having to do that energy conversion back and forth from chemical to mechanical to electrical, back to mechanical and to the road. All those conversions causes loss and efficiency losses. And so, yeah, we got 17 miles per gallon. Wasn't a big deal. All told, on this day of a whole bunch of off-roading, I think we burned like half a tank total, including driving all the way back again on the highways. So we had lots of fuel to spare. Now, these numbers are the entire trip down to Shoshone from San Jose, and then back again on the fourth day of our trip when we just drove home again. So essentially, it was the highway run in each direction. And you can see there, it's almost 1,000 miles, and all told, only 24 miles per gallon. I would love it to be better. I've said that several times. I think the official numbers as far as Volvo goes are, 28, 29 miles per gallon highway. But when your highway speeds are like 85, 90, it's gonna be it's gonna be a challenge there, of course. Finally, this is the entire trip combined, 1,300 miles, overall 22 miles per gallon. Again, since a big chunk of that was essentially off-roading and stuff, as well as driving stupid fast, that seems perfectly reasonable. It's kind of interesting. Look at the electrical consumption. It's up to 64 kilowatts. If we back here, this is just, again, the highway mileage going each direction. It's almost half of that. And so during this trip, let me point out, I never recharged once. I actually forgot the charge cord. I was hoping to do some charging at the motel every night. I forgot it. And so while we started the trip with essentially a free 20 miles of electric range, I essentially saved that and even recharged every now and then to make sure, especially when off-roading, I really wanted a full battery, almost full battery, so that if we got stuck or had a problem, that battery will really help us stay warm overnight and that kind of stuff. So, it's interesting that the parts of the trip that were not the highway trip, right, almost doubled our electric regeneration and therefore the electric use, right? So that was the downhills throughout the Death Valley adventures, going up and down big hills and big elevations. That's what produced the extra 30 kilowatts and then provided an extra 30 kilowatts of range. And so that's a lot of electricity. That's a lot of range that we essentially netted back just by going down hills and stuff and not burning up that energy in our brakes or that kind of thing. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for watching through all this data. I'm sure probably my Volvo XC60, XC90, SPA chassis fans probably enjoy this kind of content. The rest of you out there, it's probably as boring as watching paint dry. But let me know, actually, in the comments down below. Is this kind of analysis and information about how a high-performance hybrid vehicle does on long trips and interesting environments like off-roading? Is this interesting data for you folks? Is this cool to watch? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching again. Take care.